What is up, guys? It's Jake. Welcome to episode number 15 of the Warcry Games podcast. Joining me today, we got Brandon. How are things, man?
Yo, what up? It's great. Living the dream.
We got a new guest on today, Joe. What's going on, dude?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Brandon just told me real quick about you that you're a big Final Fantasy 14 fan. I know we talked about it briefly before.
Yep. That'd probably be my one main game right now. Religiously every week, especially since the new patch came out last week, a couple weeks ago.
I was telling Brandon I wish we had John on as well. He's a big Final Fantasy 14 fan. Like he'll go to bat for that.
They'll just talk for like 30 minutes about Final Fantasy. We're like, okay, you guys can talk. Living the dream.
But starting things off, we're going to talk about what games we've been playing this week. That'll be our first little bit. And then we're going to move on to the best bit, where we go over the best crossover in video games. After that, we're going to talk gaming news for the past week with 4 larger headlines. Then we're going to move into the war cry, where we introduce a topic that's going to be designed to spark debate between the three of us. If we have some extra time, which I think we will, we're going to play Does It Hold Up again. It's a game where I bring these 10 titles from gaming history, and we determine whether or not, if that exact same version of that game was released today, if it actually would hold up. Would you buy that game? Would you buy that exact same game? So we'll have links to all the talking points in the description below. Let's start off with what games we've been playing over the past week. And Brandon started off. I want to hear it. I'm guessing one, but...
No, I actually got two, kind of three. One of us an oldie. So this week has been interesting because my PC solid state drive crashed. So I haven't been able to play PC games for a week. But what that means is it's been a very Switch heavy week. Right. So I'm bringing 3 Switch games. Now, 2 of these games have actually been on my backlog for a significant amount of time. So I'm really, really glad to actually bring these to discussion. First game I beat, Kentucky Route Zero. Now, this game has been in development for like 7 years, something like that. It's an episodic game, and it's a very interesting title. It is very surreal, is probably the best way I can describe the aesthetic and the gameplay. And I've never seen Twin Peaks, but a lot of people compare this type of game to Twin Peaks, where it's kind of out there, it's grounded in reality, but there's a lot of weird things happening, and it's kind of unreliable in between the narrator and like what's going on and what's happening. A lot of fantastical events. And it's primarily a story narrative driven game, and you're exploring, this 2D environment, and you're essentially making dialogue choices. And one way that I've seen this game described, it's like an interactive poem. And I think that is a very accurate description of it. Each chapter, you're going through the settings and talking between characters, and you're actually picking the dialogue. But the way that you pick dialogue, it completely changes what the conversation is, and you can even change characters who are talking. So you can have a situation where you might be playing as one male, you say a line, and then you are now playing as the person he just talked to. So you're kind of having a conversation with yourself.
Interesting.
So in a weird way, like I would compare it to games like Life is Strange, but the difference with Life is Strange is those games have a very clear narrative, and you can kind of choose, 1 or 2 different paths in terms of how the story unfolds.
It's like Oxenfree?
This game, yeah, it's similar to Oxenfree, but it's more of like a creative endeavor in terms of the overall experience. It allows you to choose what you want them to talk about, and like how the overall narrative plays out. It is fairly standard, but the actual minute-to-minute gameplay is just you kind of picking dialogue choices, which is interesting. I think this game, it's very, it was really well received. It got a lot of critical attention, which is why it's been on my list for so long. I think, to be honest, it's a lot of reading. It's very text heavy, and there's no voice acting really, except for maybe a couple songs they're saying, which I do love. The music is definitely a highlight and might be my favorite part of the game, frankly. But personally, I don't know if it really achieved the lofty standards that some of the reviewers said it achieved. Very artistic game, very experimental. It's unlike anything I've ever played, so I'm glad I've played it. But for what it actually is, taking a step back, I think you really have to appreciate those out there experiences, those games that are unlike anything else. But you also have to be willing to, be creative and kind of appreciate this more like flowery language, the plot that's not extremely clear, little vague in terms of like the big picture things, what's happening, and things are kind of non sequiturs, so you have to kind of piece things together. So the story itself is a little confusing to follow. The big plot points are pretty clear, but because it's so vague, that's just one thing I'll call out.
Dude, it's like
Glad I played it.
Child of Light, like as far as the poem part,
It's
you
a
said.
poem, yeah.
The whole game is a poem. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah, but again, that game, I haven't played it, but it's probably got a pretty linear narrative. Like, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, and it's pretty similar. Like, like that plot by the end of it. You know the plot of Kentucky Route Zero, but there's definitely some pieces in there. You're like, wait, what happened? Was that real life? Like, was that fantasy? Was he dreaming? It's like very confusing and kind of like a swirl of events, which is why I call it surreal. Second game I played, which is also high on my list, got a lot of buzz last year, Untitled Goose Game.
Oh, you played it.
So, again, trying to knock out some Switch games that were on my list. I enjoyed Untitled Goose Game. I think it's interesting. I think it won, like, Game of the Year, like the BAFTAs or DICE or some event, or
Joystick
GDC.
Awards, I think.
Joystick something. Somebody gave it Game of the Year. I don't know if I would give Untitled Goose Game of the Year. That's probably a little bit higher praise than I think I'm willing to give it. But I will say, for what's there, it's extremely fun and clever. If you don't know, you're literally playing as a goose, going around honking and just being a general asshole. It's really interesting the way they set up the gameplay, because they give you a to-do list, and all the to-dos are like asshole things, like trip this person or like steal from this person. You're like, okay, I guess this is what I got to do. This is what the goose would do in this game. But really, mechanically, it's kind of like a stealth puzzle game, because as soon as someone notices you or like sees what you're doing, they come and like push you away, and you don't get hurt. You just kind of get moved away from where you're trying to go. They just like shoo you away. And obviously, if you're trying to steal something, then you can't do that when they're shooing you away. But it is more of like a puzzle game, and that you'll see the to-do list and it'll say, okay, here's a really good one that stumped me for a while. You need to get someone to put on a different hat. Like, okay, how do I get them to put on a hat? Now, they're wearing this hat, and I see that other hat over here. So what can I do in the environment that would make them want to change a hat or force them to change their hat? And you have to look at the different environments. You can interact with all these different things. And so it is kind of like a fun puzzle, and there's a lot of aha moments within there. So from that aspect, it's definitely fun. It's very short and sweet. I think it took me like maybe three and a half hours to beat, 4 hours, something like that.
It's a nice little game.
Yeah, nice little game. For $20 or whatever it was, I think it's worth it.
It's free right now on the Xbox Game Pass if anybody has that. So that's super
Xbox Game
convenient.
Pass on Xbox.
Oh.
And
I have it on PC.
And they still have the 3 months for $1 thing right now too.
I know.
So there's an easy sign up if anyone wants to try that.
On previous weeks, Joe, I always hype up Game Pass. I've talked through so many Game Pass games, and now that my PC's up and running again, I'll probably have more to play.
All right.
But yeah, huge fan of Game Pass. I brought up all the games that we played multiplayer on Game Pass. And just like blew through all those.
Hey, for Goose Game, dude, have you seen? There's a dude on I saw on YouTube. He took every single thing that was in the environment, everything, and then put it into this like pond-looking area. Anything you can find in the game, he dragged it away. So he took everything you could do. Yeah,
well, it's funny because one of the challenges is rake in the lake. That's all it says, just rake in the lake. And so you have to like take a rake and put it in this lake, and it's like really funny. You can just like you see the goose leaf dragging this giant rake across the game. Like, all right, I guess I gotta put it in the lake, and then like check that off once you do it. But overall, really fun, really cute game, cleverly designed. And one thing I love about games are kind of like the final level, or whenever something. I always give games a lot of credit when they do a good job of like encapsulating everything you've learned. And I don't want to spoil it, but like the way that there are actually kind of like extra challenges once you beat it. I'm probably not going to do those because I feel like I got my money's worth with the main to-do list. But the last to-do list item is like a really cute way to wrap up the entire game, and it does show your mastery of the systems, which is a really, really fun way to do that, and the mastery of the environment and mastery of what you learn. So overall, good experiences there. And then lastly, after I beat that, I actually dove back in while my, again, PC was out of commission, into Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I have definitely talked about. And so, Jake, I think we've talked about this in the past, how I love putting games on my backlog and then coming back to them if I want to do like a different ending or a different event.
DLC.
Like I did that with DLC, exactly. So I'd already played the Fire Emblem DLC, but that was like a week or so ago, and I'm playing more Switch games, so I came back to it, and I'm probably like 40% through the Blue Lions path now.
Dimitri.
Still love that game, and that's a gift that keeps on giving. So I've talked a lot about that one in the past, but it's definitely fun, especially for pick up and go type play.
I wonder if there's like
one. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good, man.
I think it's the one game that is the most memed I've seen in a while.
Yeah,
and I love it.
Fire Emblem memes left and right, dude. I love it, and especially if you like have played that game, there's a lot of like funny references online.
I wonder if the because like there's the 3 houses, and then one of the houses gives you 2 different options. I wonder if there's a preferred play route. Like play this one first, then this, then this.
Preferred, I don't know, but I think the red Edelgard's path
Black
I think
Eagles?
is the most popular. Yeah, Black Eagles. Yeah, I think that's the most popular. If I had to guess, just based on what I've heard and what I've seen online.
And what you've played, like I've only played Black Eagles, and to me that's the only right house because I don't know the others.
I know, yeah. Or is it Red Eagles? Is it?
Oh yeah, Red Eagles. I think. Shit.
Yeah. I don't know. They're.
It's one of the two. It's Edelgard.
One of the two. Yeah, Edelgard. But what's funny is I actually thought about that question. When you start a game, guess which. When you start the menu to select one of the houses, guess which one's on top.
Is it Edelgard?
Edelgard. Yeah. It goes. It's like a rotating menu, and it starts on Edelgard. And you go right one, it's Dimitri, and you go right one.
That's probably why it's the most popular. People just probably click it and
I'm
go
like,
in.
I feel like subconsciously there must be something there.
Yeah.
If it's the first option.
And
right?
that's the house that has the 2 different routes you can go. That's the only one that has that.
Right. So I feel like there's some weight to that.
Yeah. All right, Joe, what have you been playing? What's new?
Been mostly playing 2 games for a while recently. The first was I've been catching up in Destiny 2. I got back into that. Me and a couple of my friends stopped playing at the base game before
you and John
the first
would be
expansion.
Hitting it right off. Yeah. Destiny 2 and Final Fantasy 14, man, yeah.
I stopped playing after the base game of Destiny 2, and then I switched to Warframe back there a little bit. But then I just got back into it, mostly because of the Stadia that I got, but it was crap, so I just had to buy it. The lag on it was so bad, I basically was like, screw this, I really want to play Destiny, I'll just buy the expansion, the Deluxe expansion on Xbox. So I'm playing that now, and it gave me all the expansions. So I've been trying to get the last season wrapped up right now, or at least as far as I can, before the new season comes out in 3 days. And for that, there's a lot of...
What are you doing on this podcast, dude? You better be playing.
Basically, I've just been trying to get the season pass ranked up right now. I think I'm like 56 out of 100, so I probably won't get too much farther, but there's just a lot of free stuff you can get from it. The new expansion coming out, or the new patch or whatever, actually a lot of interesting stuff going on. There's going to be twice the amount of gear that came out in the last patch. They're raising the power cap to like 1,000, and then there's a soft cap of 950, and after that you have to get special gear to raise that up even higher. But then they're also putting in a redundancy system, which is nice, where if you already get a piece of gear, then you won't basically get it as much at all.
It's an MMO and everything but name.
Yeah. But a lot of really interesting stuff. The story looks freaking amazing. Ever since Shadowkeep with the last expansion, it's really been on point from what I've been feeling. So I'm glad I've been coming back to that game.
Do you play with like the same regular group of people, or
now I'm kind of just playing myself solo. My friend's gonna come in, probably get a fire team together in the next couple of days once the patch hits. That way we can just grind out the season pass from the beginning.
Yeah, right on, dude.
But story-wise, though, oh my god, there's basically like a giant super weapon Death Star that's on a collision course to Earth because the enemies got fucked up in the last expansion, and basically just put it on autopilot, destroyed the navigation, and now you got to work on preventing it from just crashing into the Earth. So that's pretty cool. You got a giant PvP element coming back called Trials of Osiris. It's basically in-game PvP that was in the first game. So it's a big deal bringing that into the second right now for the Crucible fans. Other than that, I'm mostly just playing Final Fantasy 14 right now, working on the new expansion. Just chipping away at that, since each week there's caps on equipment and stuff that you can get. So just making sure to get in and getting all that new stuff. There's new raids, which is awesome. And what they're doing is a throwback. It's where they're taking the old bosses from the first version of the game, and they're giving them kind of a rework, a remodel.
Damn,
So
That's a cool way to do it.
there's like this old wizard guy called Ramuth. He's a lightning guy.
Yeah.
And basically in this,
isn't he a summon in most Final Fantasy?
Yeah, no, the summons will be the same across the board for names, like Shiva, Titan, Ifrit. But like Ramuth, he's a centaur now. That's pretty bad. That's pretty sweet.
Dude, that's pretty sick, centaur, dude.
But right now we're working up to Savage right now. We're a little bit behind on that. You'll have your regular version, but then you'll have your basically expert version.
The hardcore mode?
Yeah. Oh yeah, every movement
Joe,
matters.
you better be hardcore. Come on, man. I only hang out with hardcore players.
After that expansion came, that like brought a whole new breath of life into that game. Everybody said that was like amazing.
Yeah, dude, Joe was freaking out about it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's definitely, this is kind of the big mainstream kind of breakout, it seems, for Final Fantasy. Like, you got Tom Holland was doing a commercial before it came out, and that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good.
But no, this game's awesome. You can play as the new race, the Hrothgar, which are lion people, or you can be the Vera, which are the bunny girls. Switch between those two. But and then the best part about the game is that to change classes, all you have to do is just change your main weapon. With other games, with WoW and everything else, you're kind of stuck on whatever class you pick. This one, you can just change that up all the time as much as you want.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then what a lot of people don't know is that you can play up to level 35 for free. You can get the trial version of it.
Yo, Joe's a salesman, man.
I am. I'm trying to get as many people on here, man. It's a good. It's an amazing game. It definitely is a movement kind of for mechanic-wise based game. So like if you're in a big boss fight, watching a video for the hard modes is definitely a good thing to do, just to figure out where you need to be based on what your role is. So
nice
good stuff, dude.
I'm just bringing one game to the table. Again, game's been limited. Gaming time has been limited. I usually get the bulk of my...
Jake.
Yeah, man. I get the bulk of my time in sometime between midnight and 5 in the morning. That's little guy's awake and I'm out there taking care of him. So if he's like right now, I was telling Brandon, like he'll only sleep if he's on my chest. So now I just throw him up on my chest, pull out a controller, and like I'll start playing. But so
true dad life.
Yeah, I'm bringing BioShock. It's the same game I brought last week. I'll kind of explain kind of where I'm at with it. But so and again, like I played this at launch, but just bits and pieces with friends. Like never.
But you never got
full.
the story, dude. That
No.
blows my mind that you never got to the ending.
And
of this game.
never spoiled.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's never been spoiled.
Yeah, never spoiled.
I'm right near the end. So one of the big goals of the game, there's a guy that's haunting you the entire time. It's Andrew Ryan. This guy always comes up and says some shit about you, about what you're doing, about who you're talking to, about who you just faced off against, anything. Just talk shit the whole time. I'm like standing, not in his office, like where you're going to his office, but I'm like in the metro area where like, hey, go find his office. So I'm like there. So this is like.
Joe, have you played BioShock?
No, unfortunately, I haven't. I started with the Xbox and then I stopped playing when the 360 came out. And then I picked up an Xbox One after that, so I didn't really play BioShock.
I'm so excited. All right.
Well, I won't do any spoilers,
Jake, no spoilers, but we need to chat when you get there, dude.
Yeah, I think so. The remasters held up great. Like I've not gone back and played, like the old one, like the original one. So
OG on Xbox, yeah.
I haven't played that in 13 years or however long it's been.
Yeah, it's an old game, dude.
Something cool about this, I sincerely doubt it was in the old ones. There's documentaries in the game that you can find. You pick up, they're little reels of like not records, but old reels for like movie theaters and shit. And when you click on them, it pops up a documentary between Ken Levine and Jeff Keighley.
Jeff my boy Jeff.
So like they'll have interviews back and forth, and they're talking about where his inspiration was for the game, like. Okay, where'd you get the idea of this kind of aesthetic? Like this 1920s, 1930s looking thing, and he did it for, I forgot, somewhere in New York. He went to like some event. It was artistic
GDC
kind
or
of,
something.
and him and
That's
his
not
wife,
here,
I
but
think, were just taking pictures of like doorknobs and just getting a feel for the environment that they're in. Like, oh, this is what I want for my game, you know. So like that was really
That's so
cool.
interesting. I might have to replay it just for that. I love when games add like special features like that. That's so cool.
I found 4 of them. The first one I watched, and it was pretty vague. It was general. The other 3, a dialogue pops up, and it says, "Hey, don't watch this. We don't recommend you watch this unless you beat the game." So I haven't watched the other 3
Don't
yet.
watch it. Don't watch it. There's things to spoil.
Yeah.
If you do not. Yeah, there are definitely things to spoil.
But that's cool. I thought
Good
that
stuff,
was interesting. That's the first time I encountered that. It's still pretty freaking creepy, and especially say 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, have all the lights off in the house,
and you hear the splicers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get ya.
Things like just growling, or the spider slicer sitting there on the ceiling. You just see it like,
oh, dude, that shit's creepy.
crapping, clawing up on the ceiling.
And you hear the big daddy.
Those don't worry me at all. Like, I mean, you just have to have
really?
a strategy going in for them.
That's true. That's true.
But the creepy. So the big thing that is creepy. I don't know if you remember any of this. But like, say you're going down into a basement and you see a table, and it's got this like dead head on it or something. And obviously, it's the only thing illuminated in that section. And then so you go up to it. Maybe you pick up a audio tape or something, and you're listening to it. And I remember one where there was a spotlight shining on the table. And I listened to the audio tape. I looked up, and it's just a blank wall. But now there's a shadow there of like an enemy. And you're like, oh shit! And you turn around, and this guy's like right here. Like he's
they gotcha.
And then another one where it's like you go down in this dim lit, like it's a flooded basement or something like that. But there's a sign up top that says, "Hey, more items down here." I'm like, oh, I'm about to get fucked. They lured you.
You're done.
So
you're done, son.
Go down there, and there's all these frozen statues and shit. And I'm like,
oh yeah, I remember
those.
It's a cool area. Yeah, I remember that part. Yep.
And then like you get to the other end, I'm like, I know the moment I turned around. I turned around, I'm like, there's 3 extra statues that weren't there. I'm like, great. 3 of you are not real. But
so good. Yeah, good stuff.
Considering, I guess, like how much I loved Infinite, I'm pretty surprised I never did play this. I'm glad that it's on PlayStation Plus now for like their whatever titles, like free games you can play. I think I do have it on PC as well, like the HD collection. I thought I heard there was a problem with it though. I don't know. I mean,
haven't heard
played
any
it.
issues, but yeah.
I think since I had the original games on there, they gave you like the upgrade for free.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a program they did. Yeah, because I got BioShock 2 upgraded for free. I had BioShock 1, but it wasn't on Steam. It was like OG when I like used to buy CDs. Yeah.
That's it for BioShock. The only other game, like I downloaded the Final Fantasy VII remake demo. I haven't played it yet. I know it's 45 minutes long. I'm probably gonna play. I was hoping to beat BioShock last night, and I mean it's like 4 in the morning, and
baby stuff happens.
I was finally ready to get him down, like get him asleep. Once he finally fell asleep, I was like, okay, sleep time.
You're tired.
I have some time. But
rest.
Yeah, guys, let's move on to the first bit of the podcast. Best bit. This one is going to be, what is the best crossover in video games? Brandon, let's start with you again, man. This is your selection.
All right. So we got a few honorable mentions. Pretty diverse list here. Number 1, definitely going to give a shout out to Soul Calibur 2, which I know Joe is a big fan of. The GameCube version I had back in the day. Loved the fact that Link was in that game. Just a really cool inclusion. And each platform actually had their own exclusive crossover character. So there was like a Tekken fighter, and then I think Spawn was in the Xbox version. Kind of crazy. But Link specifically, it was just a really cool way to implement his moveset. He gave him a bow, they got bombs, a boomerang, and what I love about Soul Calibur is you can change their weapons, and each of his weapons you could get like the Great Fairy Sword, you could get the Kokiri Sword, like the all these different swords from like different Zelda games. You could even get the bug catching net, which I thought was hilarious. Like just a really, really great attention to detail, and a great crossover with Zelda. Definitely gonna give a shout out to Fortnite. I honestly think Fortnite is crushing it with crossovers. It's hard
Avengers.
to. Yeah, I mean, dude, when they had the Thanos gameplay in like there's nothing that you can compare that to. It's just an unreal event. They've crossed over with Star Wars. They've crossed over with the freaking NFL. Like, you have to hand it to Fortnite. It's just an absolute, dream crossover game where you can get so many different outfits and characters and weapons and vehicles and all these different things from all these awesome franchises. And, the game as big as Fortnite, not many games can do that. Another quick shout out, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. This is an interesting one. This is an example of, two franchises that at first glance don't really seem like they would have much in common. But I know I've talked about this game before. I love how well Mario elements are implemented into this Rabbids type humor and type worlds. So just got to give it a shout out. I just think they did a really good job of mixing those two very different franchises together and coming out with a very unique game. But obviously my number one is got to be Super Smash.
I knew it was going to be.
I don't know how this could not be. Super Smash Brothers is the greatest crossover event in media history, I would argue, right? And because it's a little bit of a cop-out answer, because it's a crossover with like almost everything, I will pick one specific part or crossover, and that's got to be Metal Gear Solid, the crossover from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. The reason I say this is because, again, it's an attention to detail. Sakurai does such a good job of honoring these characters and their legacy to the point that they actually added individual codec conversations with Snake and his companions, Colonel and Mei Ling, about every single character in that game. So you can go into Snake's stage and do his taunt a couple of times, put the button input, and Snake will literally the screen will shrink. There'll be an area of the screen where it's a codec area, and it says, "Hey, Snake, I see you're fighting Mario. Like, let me tell you some tips and tricks about fighting Mario." And they literally took the time to do that for every single character and really make it feel like you're actually Snake coming and crossing over with this game, bringing all of his lore, bring all of his, historical references. And there's even something so small as when Snake uses C4, which is one of his special moves. Typically, like 9 times out of 10, it's just a normal C4. But one of those, there's like a 1 in 10 chance or something like that for the C4 to actually be a butterfly, which is it's actually a big nod to Metal Gear Solid 3. It's just a tiny little nod. It's a 1 in 10 chance or something like that to actually do this really, really unique reference to their game and their world. So I just have to hand it to Sakurai. The fact that they have those little details, I just absolutely love Smash Brothers and specifically Metal Gear crossover.
I just thought of something random. I think we talked about it briefly. What a week for your computer to shit the bed. Halo, dude. First Halo game.
I know. Well, that'll be next week. That'll be next week. I know. I've already downloaded it. And now that my computer's back up, it's on ready to go. That'll be next week's podcast.
I was thinking about that. I was like, wait. I thought for sure he was bringing Halo. Oh, his computer was fucking shot.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
Man.
Yeah. It'll be next week.
Yeah. I know, Joe, you've probably played at least through the Halo. Like, you seem like you're...
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was... I remember that starting in grade school, yeah. We LAN partied that, the original Xboxes.
Joe's an Xbox boy, yeah.
And then freaking Brandon's never played.
Yeah, I know. This is my exposure to Master Chief. I'm glad they're bringing it to PC.
The first game is definitely... Like, for me, looking back, it's just so weird going from the first to the second one. Because I don't really remember the transition being that drastic as it is when you go back and play it, like on the Master Chief Collection.
Dude, it's going to be really drastic because the first one they released for PC is Reach. So it's like the last one to the first one. So I'm excited, though. I've heard the story's cool and, the soundtrack and everything's legendary, so I'm looking forward to it.
Because, like, with Combat Evolved, you have to worry about your health a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
And all that stuff.
Good to know. Yeah, good to know.
Unless you play on, like, legendary difficulty or whatever one it gives you to, like, in the early on.
Yeah.
I think I've tried.
Not my first one. Maybe with somebody else, but not my first one.
Yeah.
Although I will have to say, though, Halo 2 compared after 1 was probably one of the best sequels going off of the already successful series. Yeah. Just because, 1, you're able to... Just the character creation was one of the biggest things I remember doing. I would spend hours just creating, like, all these different characters. And you can choose to be an alien if you wanted to. Yeah. That was the first time you could do that.
Yeah. Pretty sick.
I'm going to bring 2 honorable mentions for best crossover and then my final. And I thought about swapping again. I always do this. I always get like I'll get 3 that I really really like, and then I choose my top one. And I always end up debating between those other 2. First one I'm going to say is Breath of the Wild, and there's a certain inclusion in that game. Do you know the armor that you can get that's based off Rex's outfit from Xenoblade Chronicles 2? I thought that was cool. Like
I was like, what? Crossover.
Whenever they did that, I was like, what? Because at the time, I think I was just finishing playing through Breath of the Wild, and in December of that year, they had Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so now I've played both.
Yeah.
Now you can go back and play Breath of the Wild, but now you're wearing the armor for 2 games that I've spent significant amount of time in, and now I get to like kind of merge the 2 together for a little bit. It's like you're playing as Link, but with Rex's gear running around.
Yeah,
Hyrule.
that's cool.
So that's just a nod. Next one, I'm going to say Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Ooh, yeah.
Roster isn't as big as like say Smash.
Good call.
Yeah. But I'd say instead of having like say 10 Pokemon characters, 20 Fire Emblem characters, at least you have like your quality Mario World universe ones. Like you can have Tanuki Mario, you can have the King Boo, you can have I think Gold Mario is unlockable. I mean like there's a lot of different like I guess crossover wise there's only like a couple, like DK's in there. And but it's like the Mario universe, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's got Villager and Link for crossovers.
Yeah.
But
just obviously not as much as like say Smash, a roster of like 70 plus or something.
But it's they have cool tracks. Animal Crossing track is cool. The Zelda track's cool.
Do they have an Epona mount?
They had a Master Cycle.
Okay.
So you can buy like
That's my main actually. I'll go to Link. I'll go to Breath of the Wild, Tunic, and then I'll do the Master Cycle.
Dude, Zelda it up.
Number 1, I'm gonna go with Bayonetta 2, and I think.
Oh yes.
Did you know this one? Because I know you didn't play the. The whatever you call it, the ones that came out on the Switch.
No, it was on Wii U though. It's the same game, and I know exactly the crossover you're talking about. That's a great pick, dude.
So they got like
absolutely good pick.
Peach and Daisy costumes, and if you're wearing one of them, you can have like the weaves that she launches whenever you do your attacks. Bowser's fucking foot drops out instead, and instead of it being like her hair that's doing it, it's his foot.
It's so funny.
You can play Samus from Metroid. You can play Link, or like an outfit. It's Link from Legend of Zelda. Fox from Star Fox. One of the weapons you can get and select is a Chain Chomp from like the Mario series.
Okay.
So funny, dude.
Playing that game, like you can unlock that pretty early on. I think I did say an hour of each costume, just messing around with it. Like that's pretty cool. That's a cool little inclusion, But
do you know about the Star Fox level though?
Inside Bayonetta 2?
I thought this is what you're gonna call out. So if you're wearing Fox McCloud's outfit, there's a light near the end of the game. You know that level where you're like flying in air and kind of like it's a shoot 'em up?
Yeah.
It literally gives you an R-wing and turns into Star Fox.
Cool. Mine was just her on the missile. Oh, I didn't wear his same outfit. I didn't know that.
Go back.
Yeah.
Open your Switch, put the Star Fox outfit on, and it turns into an R-wing. It's so fun.
She's either on a missile or she's on an air. Oh, I think she's on the aircraft, and it's
it's like an aircraft. It's something like that.
That's cool.
But it's that alone is just like such a cool detail with the sound effects and everything. It's awesome.
I remember she had a Link outfit.
Yeah.
In one game. What game was that?
That one up. Yeah, that's been and it's
2.
I think it's on both of them. I think it's 1 and 2.
Okay.
I played it. I know for 2 because I just remember how like graphically it updated it a lot better compared to like the first one. Like the first game versus the second one.
Yeah.
I played them.
But I think on Wii U and Switch, I think you can use those Nintendo outfits in both games.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, man. All right, let's transition to the gaming news segment with 4.
Right, what about
Hey.
Oh shit, my bad, dude. Normally I go you, and then I think I skipped you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with Joe.
No, that's all right. For a couple, so the number one of the top characters I would say recently for a crossover for multiple games would have to be Geralt of Rivia from Witcher 3. He is in Soul Calibur. He is also in Monster Hunter.
Yep.
And that's actually a really fun fight because you can use Igni for like one of the gestures. So that kind of like Ryu's Hadouken as well. But he feels really good in Soul Calibur 6. It's real fun. I'd probably say Smash, one of the most crazy that people got over, would probably be Banjo-Kazooie.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like people really lost it whenever he was brought over. That and
was
Persona
huge.
5 was really good.
Yeah, Joker. Well, Joker was so out of left field. Like, I think after Joker laid the precedent, people were like, hey, could Banjo be there? But I think people wanted Banjo for so long.
But I love the way Joker plays in
he's
Smash, too. He's really fun to play. Yeah, no, that's probably it for me, yeah.
I think Smash is like... It's got to be. I didn't even bring it because I knew Brandon was going to bring it.
Yeah.
Like, I thought about it. I was like, no, Brandon's bringing this.
Just the whole game.
Yeah, it's the whole game, yeah.
Everything from the world, like the stages that you have, the spirits that are in there, to the characters they've been able to acquire, to forward-looking with the next season pass of fighters. Like, I'm sure it's going to be big. Yeah.
So good.
It's like what do you call it? Like a love letter to gaming or something?
Yeah, it's a love letter to gaming in general. It's not just... It used to be a love letter to Nintendo, and I would argue with Ultimate, it's really become a love letter to gaming. It's
Terry,
beautiful.
you've got Joker.
Yeah.
I mean...
Cloud? Pac-Man?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. It's insane.
All right, now, without skipping anybody, let's go into the gaming news segment, guys. Let's open the floor, chat a little bit about what's been happening in the gaming world for this past week. First thing up, it was PlayStation's 20-year anniversary this week. So I was just thinking something we could talk about is when you think PlayStation 2, what's the first game that comes to mind? And like for me, I never owned a PlayStation 2. It was like my uncle had one, so I went to his house and played it. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. And the fact that it was a DVD player, because that was like also half the reason I even used that thing. But I played a shit ton of like Pro Skater 2, like over at his house. Anytime I was over there, it was playing that game. Trying your best to link all your, like grinding rails to this one, to this one, to this one, trying to do as many tricks as you can to get that score up, like breaking into little secret areas that you're supposed to get to, but it's kind of hidden away. But that's the first thing I think of when I think of PlayStation 2. What about you, Joe?
Didn't have a PlayStation 2 either, but my cousin did, so I'd always go over to his house to play Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Because there's no way my parents would have let that in my house.
Which one?
I think it was 2.
Or 3? Well,
2 or 3.
Well,
I forget.
I think 3 was the
on
first one
one.
that's 3D, so it was probably either 3, Vice City, or San Andreas that were on PlayStation 2.
I think it was San Andreas.
San Andreas, yeah, that was a really popular one, yeah.
What about you, Brandon? First title pops in your head.
God of War, man.
Yeah?
The original God of War. Yeah, I mean, that game... I didn't play it on PlayStation 2, but there was so much buzz around it. And when I actually played it on PlayStation 3 later, I was like, wow, I can completely understand why this game got so much hype and so much praise. And like that, I don't know. I think that game was, at the time, like pushing a lot of envelopes for how like gory and graphic and
sexual
sex minigames. Yeah. So I think there was a lot of buzz when that game came out. It's the first one that comes to mind. I didn't have a PlayStation 2 either, but definitely had a lot of fun with it.
I can't wait till... are you going to pick up PlayStation 5 on launch or just a little bit after, maybe down the road? I don't know what...
We'll see how my backlog's looking, because as I mentioned before, my real reason for getting a PlayStation 5 is PlayStation 4 games.
Right.
So if I get to PlayStation 5 launch and I'm like really like looking for some brand new games that like not on PC, nothing really coming out on Switch, then I'll probably pick it up.
I'm sure their lineup's going to be, pretty shit. I mean, they're going to have...
Yeah, launch is usually not great.
They have a ton of games coming out this year, obviously, like big heavy hitters up until PS5, but all we know is... What was the...
Godfall,
the looter slasher looking game. That's it. Yeah, that's all we know. But yeah, so I can't wait for you to play at least the PS4 games, because we got to have some discussions, man.
We will.
Yeah.
God of War, Bloodborne, Uncharted. There's a lot to play. Persona.
Yeah. Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Probably end up just getting the Xbox day one, just because all the people I play with are doing it. So.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, with
Series
Play
X.
Anywhere though, dude, you can play whatever you want.
Yeah, and then every game on Xbox One will be able to play on the new one. So.
Hey, you and I will play. I'll hop on my PC. You hop on your Xbox. We'll play whatever you want to play.
I'm still super hopeful for a E3 announcement. Like every game is backwards compatible. Like everything.
If it isn't canceled, because they've already canceled the last conference.
Well, I think they'd still have announcements even if they don't have the conference. But good point.
So actually, the other one, another gaming news segment, Final Fantasy VII Remake demo has dropped. Have any of you guys played? Actually, you don't have PlayStation 4 yet. I don't know if you play, Joe, like at all.
I've played. I've gone back and played on Steam for the original 7, and then I believe they said that they might bring it to Xbox as well a year after launch.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think it's going to be
1 year
multi-plat, but
just because
there is exclusivity for the
most Final Fantasy games these days, besides Nasidia, is which I still have a sore subject on that too. So because I really wanted to play that. I feel like
the servers are offline, right, or something?
No, it's a PlayStation only.
Oh, okay. John
Aren't
said
they
something
taking
last
one of the?
week.
Yeah, aren't they taking the servers offline too, though? For one of them?
I just haven't been following. Just because
if you don't care about it, you can't play,
out of
you don't care
spite,
about it.
out of spite.
Yeah, exactly. There you go, Joe. There you go.
But it seems like a lot of the Final Fantasy games these days are becoming more cross-platform, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then
like Square Enix and Kingdom Hearts, they're just trying to bring everything to everybody.
That was big.
Yeah.
Game Pass, like all of those Final Fantasy games dropping, like when Microsoft announced it, I was like, holy shit. Like it just dumped, like here's like almost all your major Final Fantasy games, like Game Pass, boom.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. For the remake, I haven't played either. I was going to get your guys' impressions.
I got 10 and 10.2, and I actually ordered that from Southeast Asia because you have to download 10.2.
Yeah.
If you get it in the States or from Europe, you have to download 2. So I wanted it both be on the same card. They only have that on the Southeast Asia card.
I got it
so
too.
I picked that up, and
then
I played it. I sent it to my buddy, and then he's sending Zodiac my way because we kind of split it up between us. We're like, okay, we're going to play all these games, so why don't one of each of us buy a different one, and we'll just, once we're done, we'll trade it.
Zodiac is 12?
Yeah, Zodiac Age is 12, yeah.
Dang, man. Yeah, I still want to play that. That's it's on my backlog. It's up there because I bought that too. Package. Same with I got the Final Fantasy 7 and 8 twin pack from was it Limited Run Games or no. It was Play Asia, I think, is like who that was.
Sure.
So I've got that and 10 too. So I got those 4 games that I still
waiting to go.
Yeah,
but Jake's backlog is
it's
too
ridiculous.
Long.
Yeah,
too long.
It's never going to be cleared now. I can tell. When I play one game a week, BioShock, and I can't clear it.
Yeah,
in 2
when you have
weeks,
a baby, dude,
it's hard.
happen.
But that's it. So you guys have kind of already touched on this next news topic. GDC's been canceled due to the coronavirus. Do you think it's going to happen for E3?
Honestly, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
At this point, I feel
it's hard to predict like global health crises.
Yeah.
You know,
3 months out, like it's not that far, and GDC wasn't canceled. I guess it was postponed to later in the year.
Yeah.
But we'll see if that.
I really liked a tweet I saw, and I don't know if it was like Dan Dwyer or like Jeff Keighley, someone on Twitter. They mentioned that it'd be really interesting if E3 does get canceled, and then all the publishers have virtual events similar to Nintendo Directs, and then the publishers realize like, oh, that was way easier. Why don't we just do that? And then E3, like we've talked about this in the past, but that would really be like an existential turning point for E3, I would imagine, once people realize that like the trade floor sitting 4 hours in line for a 30-minute demo or less, like not really a sustainable system.
So where they'll still have fan events, of course.
Yeah,
they'll have that, but just not having it wrap around the releases.
Not like a trade show, not like the way that E3 is. I think that's the distinction. Like
travel to big cities or something, and then have you guys
fan
come
events
to.
Are different.
Yeah,
right.
And then I don't know if it'll be a good thing or a bad thing, just because E3 has drastically changed, of course.
We talked about yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious. I think this will be a major turning point, especially like you said. Like if it does get canceled, everybody realizes we don't have to dump $5 million in our venue and setup and everything that we got to do, and like, oh, we can just tweet something. We can go on YouTube, upload a video, like PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo have been doing.
No technical difficulties.
Yeah. Although we talked about that a while back, like that's kind of what makes it fun, the danger.
Yeah, but not to the publisher, only to the viewer, dude.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah, only to the viewer.
But you remember Cyberpunk, like for Xboxes, that was their closer for last year, right? And Phil Spencer's like just talking, and like the lights are going out, and you're thinking like shit's about to fuck up.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a closer last year, because I think last year was...
It might have been the year
Keanu
before.
Reeves. Yeah, it was a closer 2 years ago. Keanu Reeves was last year.
Yeah. and then like it looks like it got hacked. You know, like they're
it's like, oh, what's happening?
and then it's loading CD Projekt Red. You know, Cyberpunk. I'm like, man, that
real
was
big
cool.
Real big tidbit on that. They have a Keanu Reeves statue with a guitar now for Cyberpunk. That looks pretty sick.
Damn,
is that like the limited edition or something, or is it just
I saw it on Twitter and I was like,
need it.
And he's just like he's got it up in the air and he's just shredding it.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Man,
That's funny, dude. That's real funny. Yeah, right. That's true.
Another cool news thing, and I mean, it's not too much news, but I thought it was interesting to bring up. God of War, they hacked that camera finally this week. So now, instead of being just like, so the entire game is filled with the camera, like over the shoulder, one continuous movement, they've hacked that to where you can adjust it and then put it somewhere else. And what somebody recorded was them moving the camera up top, aiming down at that first very intro battle, the first time you encounter battle with like Boulder. And Boulder is it's really, really cool to see from like this like bird's eye view looking down, but he's flipping you off when you chuck him down into a canyon. He's like falling down in the canyon and he's going like this, like flipping you off. You don't get to see that because it happens off like, off camera. That's like crazy.
I mean, probably just some programmer and animator just have, a laugh. That's pretty good.
I wonder if like if I got quality checked by anybody, like if anybody was like, no one's gonna see it, like
no one's gonna see it. Yeah. I'm sure they knew about it. Like it takes effort to animate that. So
it kind of reminds me of PT. I don't know if you guys played that, the demo for like PT. It was the entire time you're walking around, that whatever that girl's name is, she's attached to your back. You said Lisa?
Yeah, dude. I think so.
Yeah, I think that's it. So like they did that where the guy pulled the camera forward, because all it is basically a camera. That's what you are. Like you don't really have a body or whatever, but they pulled the camera forward and then backward and they recorded that segment, but then they fixed the camera back here and then they played that back to themselves, and what they saw was Lisa was like twitching and moving forward. You can kind of see her shadow in the background like moving, and like that's some attention to detail stuff to imagine that like
creepy, dude.
How there's a chance that'll never be discovered, right? Like there's a chance that no one's ever going to see that, but someone went through the effort to be like, this person is always attached to your back. That creepy girl.
Boundary breakers, dude.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I thought that was pretty cool. Another one, Last of Us. It's got a HBO series come up that was announced a couple days ago. If you guys have seen Chernobyl, it's on Amazon Prime. Strongly recommended. Really good series. Same show creator for that. It's going to be pulled in for this. High hopes, low expectations. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Neil Druckmann, the writer and director for The Last of Us, or creative director, is involved does give me some confidence. I think, and the fact, to your point, the Chernobyl writer also, I think that's a really all-star cast. So I think, companies are starting to look at franchises like The Witcher that, while technically it was rooted in the book series, arguably the majority of that, script and the world design was heavily inspired by the game. So I think people are looking at that, and Castlevania anime series doing well on Netflix. So I think people are starting to take those game franchises a little bit more seriously in terms of the budget and the credentials that they're actually throwing towards it. So I'm optimistic.
The Witcher writer of the books actually just renegotiated with the game company because they didn't account for some money here with all this movie stuff and a whole bunch of other things. So that was a big deal where he renegotiated recently.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a news clip about it saying like he was pretty upset that he's out of like a lot of money or something. That kind of sucks.
Yeah. One of the other big news things I've seen for the past week or so is there's rumors that Kojima is making a new Silent Hill, and it's already in development.
I've seen rumors.
Don't get my hopes up. Don't get my hopes up.
There was an image on Twitter where Kojima was like writing something like a notepad or something, and someone zoomed in and saw. Oh, I'd have to see what it was, but it was like Hill or something, and on the back there was silent, and someone's like, "Wait, silent? Wait, Hill?" And if you check, but that's like how a lot of these things go.
My heart can't take it. I don't even want to think about it until it's confirmed. I hate rumors about stuff that's like too good to be true.
That'll be interesting.
That's funny, dude.
All right, guys, let's move into the War Cry. It's a pretty good pace. I think once we finish this, we will be able to get into if it holds up or not. For the war cry, this one's going to be compare and contrast 2D versus 3D game design. What do 2D games typically do better than 3D titles and vice versa? Outside the obvious graphical differences, are certain gameplay or world design elements more prevalent in one style versus the other? And which do you prefer? And Joe, what's your preference?
Most of the games I play these days are 3D, but I love going back and playing like Shanti into like a 2D scroller.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say with 2D where I typically don't like sometimes is where they try and do this vast world only in 2D, and it's just it can be confusing when it's like, oh, scrolling all these different ways where it branches off and all that junk. So that can sometimes be not as great, just says you only have the one plane that you're working with.
I know 3D can be like that too, at least with I don't know, I know Brandon's played with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. The navigating around there, like I remember spending a long time trying to figure out how to get in the zone I'm supposed to be in. Like it was pretty confusing. There was one section of the game where it was like, I think they updated that actually, like after we had already played through it and beat it, but it was bad. It was like kind of like what you were saying in the 2D platform, but it was layered, and you had to be in the right layer to enter into like a next zone that you're supposed to do, like a whatever quest that you're supposed to do. And I just remember it being like a big problem, but I think both kind of have that issue.
Like I love Hollow Knight, but sometimes I'm like, whenever you get like, it'll split off and I feel like I'm missing out on something just because you just keep going on that one path.
And if you're the type of gamer that wants to like explore everything, you know, check all the corners, hit all the walls, then that's going to be like super annoying, super daunting. Like, did I hit everything? Do I have to go back? Do I have to explore it?
No, I feel like with 3D, it depends on if you do have a nav or compass system as well. And then the differences with that, because like a lot of games you'll have just like a straight up mini map in the corner, which I love those, or you'll just have like the compass on the top screen, which I'm not too big of a fan of.
Skyrim.
Yeah, right.
Fallout, Skyrim.
And then you'll have other games that you don't even have a freaking map, and you got to open up your physical map every single time, so that's just an extra step.
Like Morrowind or something, one of those older ones. You have to go through your journal, like read old entries, to be like, where the fuck am I supposed to go?
Good luck navigating anywhere there. You just get lost and wander in that kind of game.
Man.
Kind of like Destiny has that, where can sometimes be not so great when you have to constantly open up your map to just find different locations and all that.
Yeah.
For me, I still pretty much prefer like 2D style games for platformers now and always. Back in the day, I've always preferred it. Like I love, say, Banjo-Kazooie. I love Donkey Kong 64, even though it's a collective fun. Like at the time, I really enjoyed it. But as a platformers, they're clunky. They're not fun. They're not as precision tight. It's awkward cameras. But 2D platforms always hold up. I played Celeste recently. That's a newer example of that. Tight, great controls, beautiful, still good. If I had to choose like platformer genre, always go with that. But if I had to go with like an older JRPG, then I used to always prefer that like in 2D. That was always just like, because that was pretty much all they had. But once they swapped to 3D, now I only prefer like any JRPG like in a 3D grand scale type of world. Octopath, I would say, is the only exception to that because it's like 2.5 HD or whatever. I
would call that 2D for the purposes of this discussion. Though you're not exploring a 3D real life world.
Yeah,
you get a fixed map. So
I think that's the key. And I think the other thing I want to clarify when I'm asking this question, like you can have 3D models and what I would argue is like a 2D game. You know?
Right, Dragon Ball
it's
Fighters.
It's more about the camera angle.
Yeah. So I would still, same thing then with fighting games. You know, I would prefer a Xenoverse 2 style game versus a Dragon Ball Fighter style game, 2D playing. So any type of fighter game, I actually do prefer 3D. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot versus Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or something like that. So I think it depends on the genre. It depends on, like the whatever they're trying to go for. But I don't... If a game is 2D, I'm not going to write it off. If it's 3D, I'm not going to write it off. It depends, if they do it well. But what about you, Brandon? You brought this question, so I'm assuming you have something in mind.
So that's interesting. So we've actually touched on a lot of the bullet points that I already mentioned. So I'll get it out the way. I typically do prefer 3D, so we do have a little bit of a back and forth there. But let's talk about some things that I thought about in terms of differences, right? Like 2D is really, really good for precision due to, we mentioned, from a platforming perspective and fighting games. You think about some of the world class. You go to Evo. Basically, every game at Evo is 2D. Even Smash Brothers, I would argue, you're fighting on a 2D plane. Street Fighter, you're fighting on a 2D plane. All those games, it's so much easier from a precision standpoint to have a 2D plane. As soon as you throw the character environment around in the 3D area, it just gets really messy to have a competitive, precise game.
I would say Soul Calibur might be, because Soul Calibur does a good mix of where it's kind of fixed to a 2D, but then you get more of a rotational element.
Yeah, the rotation is interesting. I
2.75.
I still argue that the majority of Soul Calibur gameplay is kind of on a flat plane. The majority, and then yes, you can kind of do some steps, but you're not free roaming camera with two different characters.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting, like technicality speaking, but I think you can play. If Soul Calibur was made with 2D graphics, like I think it would still work.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing too is, and I mentioned this, is the accessibility from a viewership and from a world design perspective. I think you guys mentioned this, but when you look at a 2D game, it's typically a lot easier to understand like what you're looking at, like what the objective is, because there's not as much. The world design is obviously flat, and so you're like, okay, I'm going left, I'm going right, I'm going up, I'm going down. Something like Xenoblade Chronicles, where you have to navigate in 3D space, just adds a lot of extra complexity, and so that aspect is actually very, very well done from a 2D perspective. Now, 3D, as we've mentioned before, I think world design, environmental design is always going to be paramount from that perspective. And I think one example that I really wanted to compare is we've mentioned this as platforming, right? I think of games like Super Mario, I think of games like Celeste, and then I think of 3D platformers. I think of Mario. Again, you have Super Mario World compared with Mario 64 or Mario Galaxy or Mario Odyssey. I would argue that there is a level of precision in the 3D platformers, but the reason I enjoy Mario Odyssey is actually more for the world design and the levels and exploration and feeling like you're in a different environment. The reason I enjoy something like Super Mario Maker is the really tight controls, fast-paced. It's not necessarily like what I'm exploring. It's challenging my skills and challenging how quickly I can press buttons, because it's always easier to do that when you're only dealing with two planes. But I think the other thing that's interesting, and the reason I'll prefer a 3D game, is a game like Prince of Persia. It's a really interesting example where you look at the original Prince of Persia and you look at something like Prince of Persia Sands of Time, and they are both platform games, but Prince of Persia, the original, for MS-DOS, like way back in the day, or maybe it's like an Apple II computer. When that game first came out, it was praised for its attention to detail and its animation. So again, very precise with a little bit of kind of a realistic running cycle, which I think a lot of people praised at the time. But it's more about hitting specific jumps, grabbing specific ledges. Again, it's very similar to Mario. Whereas Prince of Persia Sands of Time, as soon as you add that third dimension, it, to me, becomes more about the experience and not necessarily like super tight precision. And that's why you get like the time mechanic where you can like rewind time, because I think the developers know that that type of it's easier to mess up precise jumps when you add that third dimension. And so it's more about exploring the environment, figuring out how to get through a level. That's more of the puzzle versus here's the level, can you time the jumps correctly? That's more of the 2D mindset versus here's the level. Yes, there is some timing involved, but it's really about exploring the world and figuring out how to get from point A to point B. It's a very different fundamental shift in game design between the same genre. So from that perspective, I think it's just interesting to analyze one genre and like compare and contrast between those two.
Mixing that, dude, like I was just thinking, I wish that mechanic for Sands of Time was in so many other 3D platformers.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Like I remember, like the moment you said that, I'm thinking Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64. Yeah. How many times I've fallen off ledges from after climbing a fucking mountain on this 3D platformer, and then getting thrown off like, oh. Prince of Persia, you just click that button, vroom, as long as you have a little bit of sand left in your whatever file, whatever, you can go back up.
Shit.
There was recently some guys for Red Dead Redemption 2 for the past couple of weeks that found this new trick to where they could jump off a cliff and survive this plummet, to where they just, I think it was they ate something and then they vomited at the same time, and the vomit turned into a rope when they jumped off at the same time. So it would slow them down before hitting the bottom.
Sounds about right.
Crazy.
So the video just has this guy just falling down, and then you can just see this trail coming down after.
That's hilarious, dude. Yikes.
Alrighty, guys, let's move into Does It Hold Up? So, I'm bringing
All
10
right.
titles. I got these 10 games. I'll rattle them off, and then you guys just let me know. Like, just imagine you heard about this game today. It's releasing tomorrow. Will you be will you put your money towards this game? So back in the day when these were all launched, they were arguably like really, really solid titles. They held up at the time. They were something you would have put money towards. Will that happen again today? No remasters, no updates, no DLC, just the game as it was originally intended.
No nostalgia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, if that plays a little role into your decision of why you would pay money for that today, I would say you just have to justify the reason behind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, nostalgia just for because I loved it.
Maybe if it's like a sequel or something, that would make sense. Yeah.
First game up, and I talked about it briefly on here. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. For me, PlayStation 2.
I'd say yes. I never owned this. I played it on Game Boy Color, but I've played the PlayStation 2 and Nintendo 64 versions. And what I remember about this game is just the soundtrack being very good. So soundtracks always, music is a thing that stands the test of time. The ability to link those different tricks. I just think that technical mastery of the different, trips and flips and things like that, still is fun today, even if the graphics don't hold up.
I agree. I mean, I haven't played it since launch, but I remember it, and then I went back and looked at a video of it again, and I'm like, I think this would still hold up. People have been wanting Skate 4, they want Red Federation.
I feel like if it was released today, I think it would do good. Just from I don't think there's really much to compete.
Yeah,
and the skateboard,
it's pretty much gone.
Doesn't hold up because nothing else is here. Yeah.
And from my notice, I think it all went downhill after what was the one where they tried to do the skateboard?
What the hell?
Like the physical skateboard that you
Tony
had.
Hawk Ride or something?
Yeah, That for me was kind of like the iceberg effect. Once that hit, it was just sinking ship, I think.
Trying to do that plastic like Guitar Hero.
Well, this next one then, this one intentionally put on the list. I was hoping we had a couple other podcast members on here because I knew there was going to be a debate on it. But for Brandon, too, Final Fantasy VI. This is a very widely renowned game, is like one of the best. I've not played it, so I actually don't have stakes in this, but I know a lot of people who are normally on this have played it.
Man.
And I know Brandon's opinion.
Joe, do you have any thoughts on this before I talk? Have you played Final Fantasy VI? Or no?
Remind me which one was that again?
That's the Super Nintendo one, so it's Final Fantasy 3 in America.
Okay. No, I haven't played that. That's on the backlog list.
On the backlog.
The ones that pick up,
okay, so I know Jake's smiling because I recently talked to him about this. So, here's what I'll say. I actually do think it holds up.
Okay.
But and it holds up for a lot of reasons. I think the story is great, the characters are great, the environment is great, the scenarios. There's a freaking opera scene. Like, there's so much about this game that has stood the test of time. I got frustrated personally playing it because I think I just got to a point where you kind of had to grind to beat the last boss, and whenever you got to grind
old school JRPG, man.
JRPGs, I just get a little annoyed, and so I was used to the modern conveniences of fast travel, or you can fast, but they're speed up battles and shit like that. And I think I had just come off of a game where I could speed up battles, and I don't know, something about, and we've talked about this too, but some of those games, I really have to be so hooked to the story, and the way that the second half of that game, it really opens up. I typically on RPGs like to be led along a little bit. I like to feel like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. The second half of that game is very open. It's like, oh, you can kind of go wherever, talk to whoever, which I know a lot of people appreciate, but me, I was kind of like, all right, where I gotta go, wandering around, and then when I was like, okay, I kind of want to just like beat the final boss, I like tried to go to that final area.
Kefka.
Ooh. Yeah, Kefka.
Kefka is one of the best Final Fantasy bosses, and
right.
That was in the what was that? That was a couple of patches ago, I believe.
14?
For 14. So that's what I love about 14 is like it's basically they describe it as a theme park for all the Final Fantasy games. So I definitely would pick it up eventually, just because I've played a lot of the characters.
Yeah, and you know who he is.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. Like, I can't stand
time.
here today. I can't stand here today and tell you it doesn't hold up because of all these amazing factors. I think, you know, it probably isn't. I played it recently, so it's not my favorite game of all time. But for someone who knows what they're getting into and appreciates and doesn't mind that grind, it's a great game.
It's nice having those modern conveniences. You know, like I can't imagine. Yeah. I played another one recently, 9, and it has like a ton of the modern conveniences.
9, yeah.
It'll let you fast forward through battles or go like way super speed. You can turn off the random encounters. Like if you're just not feeling it, you don't want to grind.
Nice, yeah.
That is nice. Moving to the next game though, Final Fantasy 9. Does it hold up?
Ooh. All right, why don't you start on this one because you just beat it?
Me, I say yeah. Like I do. Like even if it was like the way it originally was, I'd be okay with that. It was the story alone hooked me.
Yeah.
I think that story holds up. It was good.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have continued playing if it's just, hey, we removed the fact that you can have random encounters. You know, that's not as big of a deal to me as like playing through that story, looking to save Princess Garnet. You know, like the whole entry scene. I love the opera type thing that they have going on. Like I love just the whole story, that whole game. Like I was enthralled. Very rarely will a game like hook me like that.
Yeah.
But I will say I really appreciate those so much, where like you can just speed up through battles, because that game has the longest intro to every single battle. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it's like a camera will zoom in and then circle around everybody, zoom in and out, and it's like after 1,000 battles, you're like, oh my god, just stop. You know, like please no more. But I would still, personally, I'd say it holds up.
I'm gonna have the exact same answer, and it's the same thing for 6 too. Like 9, I really enjoyed. I had those modern conveniences, so to Jake's point, we both enjoyed going through it because I can kind of speed up some of those battles. But I think if I didn't have that, I would probably get frustrated the same way I would have had frustrated with 6. But there's so many parts of that game that are so well done. Again, story, cutscenes are really, really cool. Well done.
I thought it was really well done.
Yeah. Soundtrack, it's amazing.
The world itself, the design of it, just I talk to every single NPC you can talk to, like walking through the game. That's kind of like my MO with that. Like it's cool that everybody has a little bit of dialogue. I really appreciate that. What about you, Joe? Did you play 9 or?
No, I never played the original 9. I think I might have played like a demo or something, if I remember correctly. But I mean, for the design of the game, I love it though, just because they have that really whimsical kind of style.
Yeah.
You know? It kind of reminds me a little of a little bit of Fable elements, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah. That's probably why I like it.
That's a good comparison. Yeah, that's a very good comparison.
You ready for Fable 4? I'm going to go with launch title. Oh God, I'm hoping.
We'll see. Just because I mean, I played 2 and 3, but hands down, Lost Chapters is. I spent so many hours in that game. I love
That's
it so much.
That's the only thing I've not played. I played 1, 2, and
Lost
3.
Chapters.
But
It's
not
the best.
Lost. Yeah.
The entire series is the best game, especially since it adds a DLC onto the end of the original game.
1. I played the original. I played Fable like Definitive Edition for PC, and I think it had that content.
Yeah, Anniversary. I think hooked it all together or something. Like me, I have it on my original Xbox, and they didn't have. This was pre-DLC for the most part, at least mainstream DLC. So I just have this game. I played that thing like many times over, just as it is. You know,
dude, is Fable on your list of does it hold up? Because I'd love to have a discussion on
original? That one. Yes.
Yeah.
We can talk about it. But see, that's where it comes to nostalgia, though. That's hard because
I don't think it does, dude. I played it for the first time, the Anniversary Edition, like 2 years ago, maybe, and it felt really generic, to be honest with you.
If we're gonna say no
for the
nostalgia,
time, for the time,
no nostalgia.
I think
felt generic.
Just the market. You're right. The market is so flooded with similar types of games.
I love it. Love that game. I'll say no.
Yeah.
I'll say I will still play it this day, and I
Yeah,
still enjoy it.
yeah, you have
but
good memories.
I
Yeah, when it
know-
came out, I probably, yeah.
I think it might hold up a little just from the morality system. Morality system,
I like that.
I remember, was one of the best I.
Well, but here's
Brandon
where
coming
let
in.
me get my high horse.
Yeah, high horse
because I
it.
would argue that games that are released in today's day and age, like The Witcher 3,
Mhm.
it's a gray morality system where it's not like Mass Effect where it's like you're a good guy, so good guy things happen. You're a bad guy, so bad guy things happen. Games like Witcher 3 and Life is Strange, it's like, well, there's no really right or wrong answer. It's really how you interpret the questions, who you choose to hurt, who you choose to help. Like,
I think
that's
both
what
will
I
work.
look for in a morality system. I just think you're a good guy, so here's a halo. You're a bad guy, so here's some horns. It's just such an archaic way of looking at problems and morality.
I kind of like it because there's a clear right and wrong answer to all your decisions, and it depends on your gameplay element, and it gives you replayability for the opposite path. And
It's
I like
kind
the
of-
fact you can do it transforms your body, not just like say your horns, your halo, but say you're a big magic user. Well, now you're going to get these runes inscripted on your body. If you're a big brawler, you're somebody who swings a sword a lot, like your muscles are going to get big. Your gameplay directly affects your physical appearance in like all these ways. So I do really like that about Fable, but
there were certain equipment that you could only get for one side or the other.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that was interesting because then you kind of did multiple playthroughs. That's what I did.
So you've all played and beat Fable 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm not going to say, just because there could be somebody who watches this. I was going to say, like, something about a certain equipment that you may get based off a decision that you may or may not have. That
I
happens.
do remember there was a bow that you could get for being going to the dark side. There was a temple that you had to lurk. You basically had to get companions, have them follow you, have them survive, and then finally sacrifice them. And you had to do that multiple times just to get this bow. So
That's messed up.
That's messed up, but it was interesting.
To me, it's worth it. I'll always go like the dark path on that.
Jake's like, I'll kill everyone.
And the light side, basically, what was it? You got a sword for just donating a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
So.
Good guy.
Next game, Guitar Hero.
Original Guitar Hero?
First Guitar Hero game. With however many tracks it had, I don't remember, but imagine that game coming out tomorrow. Their rhythm-based games are kind of making I would say, like a soft comeback. Last podcast we talked about harmonics. I play Beat Saber all the time. Like Audica is what John's harping.
I do like Groove Coaster. Have you ever played that?
Mm-mm.
That's a good
I
one.
played Audio Surf. Is it similar?
Audio
I don't
Surf.
know. Yeah. I don't know. I'll look up Groove Coaster, but Guitar Hero. So I think it's interesting if Guitar Hero came out today and Rock Band never existed and Guitar Hero 2, 3, 4, 5 whatever never existed. The answer is definitely yes. If you're saying does Guitar Hero 1 hold up today when Guitar Hero 2, 3, 4 and Rock Band 1, 2, 3 and Beatles and all this other stuff exists, I would say no. I think those games are better because the thing with the early Guitar Hero, if you remember, is they're all actually covers. They didn't get the licensing rights to original songs until Guitar Hero 3. And so the Guitar Hero 3 was the first one where it was like half licensed tracks and half covers. So Guitar Hero 1 was like all covers. Like I think they're good covers, but if you were to give me Guitar Hero 1 and say like, is this game good in a world where all those other games exist? I'd say just.
It's a good argument.
Yeah, I wouldn't play.
Then again, Beat Saber. I've pumped at least 100+ hours into that, and the original songs by them are not mainstream artists. It's just like built in house or licensed like locally. You don't get your licensed games unless you start modding that shit. So I would still say I have a good time with it.
My argument again is if Guitar Hero 1 was the first Guitar Hero and nothing else existed today, yes, the answer is yes. It definitely holds up.
Other ones do exist. So.
Yeah. Whereas Beat Saber, nothing else exists like Beat Saber. If Beat Saber 4 comes out tomorrow, and then you have to now compare Beat Saber 1 to Beat Saber 4, you're going to say Beat Saber 4 is way better. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an interesting argument when there's sequels that exist.
I think I would be interested to see if people would be willing to pay for that extra guitar though, for controller in this day and age. Like when it first came out, you had like the Wii and everything else where kind of people were okay with picking up this extra specialty
Well, Guitar
controller.
Hero 1 was PlayStation 2. I think that was kind of before the big Wii craze, though. Guitar Hero 3 was the first Wii title. So that would have been even before then.
But I'm just wondering, just because, I don't know, whenever there's an extra thing that is required for you to buy to play a game, maybe.
Yeah,
And
sure.
expensive.
Like, look at Starlink, where they tried to do the whole
Yeah.
collectible stuff. That's, of course, a different thing, but I guess it's along the same.
I got the box here. I got that shit for free. Like on Amazon, they were running promotion. Like this was well after the game came out, but it was like, hey, if you buy this thing, you automatically get a $15 credit applied to your Amazon account. The game was for $14.99. And so I was a 1-for-1 trade-off. I get the game, I get some ships or something. I've never played it, but it was just like I got it for free. It's
I
on the
heard
Switch.
it's like kind of fun.
Yeah.
They do have a Walmart double combo pack with the Raymond Rabbits with the digital Starlink.
Cool.
So I might have to see about picking that up. $30, not bad.
I've heard it's a fun game, yeah.
Next game, guys. Ghouls and Ghosts. The first one.
Ooh.
Not super. I'm going to go with no. I've seen it on like arcade. I know it's like an older game, say like NES, but I've played it moderately recently, sometime in the last year, and man, I would not pay money for that game. Personally, I would not pay money for that game. If that thing was released tomorrow and I saw a trailer for it or I'd played the demo for it, personally, I'm like, man, this is yeah, I get it. It's tough. It's hard. The controls are bad. I think it's just not that fun. You're kind of locked into a direction when you move. Like, that's just me personally. I don't know if you guys, I know you guys have probably played it, but it's where you have armor, you get hit, you lose the armor, and then if you hit again, you die.
Joe, have you played it?
A little.
Same, just a little.
You know, I don't think it. Wouldn't think it would either. I don't know.
So my take on this one, it's very interesting because I'm looking it up. It was originally an arcade game. So I think the things that we find frustrating about it were
intentional.
actually right.
So you can pump that quarter in, man. Just keep pumping that quarter in. You want that armor back on?
So I think this game would be fun if you allow us to have save states. Because I actually think the level design and like some of the weapons are really fun in this game.
Released.
I know. I can't. It's difficult because I don't think anyone would pay for an arcade game. I don't think anyone would go to the arcade when you can have a home console experience that you can save. So no, the answer is no. I'm not going to put quarters into Ghosts. But
the arcade version, okay, it wasn't simultaneously released, but like I know it was eventually came out.
And even the NES one, like I think they still, included all of the death. It's the same punishing mechanics from the arcade, but the original release was an arcade game, and that's why it's as difficult as it is. So no, you're not going to put quarters in an arcade and play that frustratingly difficult game.
People will. I guarantee, like, you could have a rotating crew of podcast members coming on here and guests, and I'm sure some would be like they'd be down for that. Like, because the argument with those kind of games, which is not my personal preference, but like you get good at them after a while. You put enough money into them. You play a certain game. You play, what did we talk about last time? Golden Axe. You said yes to Golden Axe. Golden Axe was on arcade. If you play that enough, and you die. Sometimes you want to pump more quarters in, but if you got good at it, it was just an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, Golden Axe is much more accessible than Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yeah, I'd say it's easier.
Much more.
It's more of a beat 'em up.
You feel like a badass much faster in Ghouls and Ghosts than you do in Golden Axe than Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yeah.
Ghouls and Ghosts is like, hey, here's some shit that kills you in 2 hits. And the thing with Ghouls and Ghosts that I think is, people have rose-tinted glasses with these types of games too, but the jumping mechanics are janky AF, dude. Janky AF jumping animation.
All right, first Mortal Kombat game. And honestly, like the way I was thinking about this is last time I locked it into a console, and this time I know I said like as originally released, but just go with like the first time you played this game, whatever. Like for me, the first Mortal Kombat game I played on Super Nintendo. I'm sure there was an arcade version, but as it originally, I never played that. Like I played the Super Nintendo one. For me, no, I don't think it holds up. It's got a very limited roster. Controls are not as good. It's not as fun. I'm spoiled in today's day and age where there's a lot more combinations. There's more. It's funner to play. I'm not a big fighting fan in general, but if I saw this come out, I don't know. You guys talking about Soul Calibur and Smash?
Yeah.
Like, would you pay money for Mortal Kombat?
I don't know. It'd be interesting just because the original had kind of like the stock motion of actual video footage from people.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so I guess maybe from an artistic standpoint, maybe just because you don't ever see that these days. And of course, when that came out, it was huge because it was a little bit more realistic than what they were able to get away with.
Yeah, I actually do think it holds up, and I agree with Joe from an artistic standpoint. I think the fact that they have those like live motion animations. I still think the fatalities are hilarious. Like,
I think it would do good just from the fatalities because I can't think of any other fighting game that's as brutal as fun as
there are new Mortal Kombats, but I think the benefit of some of these old games is, especially from a fighting game perspective, I think fighting and platformers are two different games to compare because platform is like they're simple, but it is easy to get frustrated based on the level and enemy design. When you're talking about a fighting game, the mechanics are pretty simple to pick up, especially Mortal Kombat. Like, the combos aren't crazy. And so you can play that game multiplayer and have a blast. Like, Jake, I remember before you left, we played that game on your Super Nintendo. Yeah. And I think that's a fun game to just pick up and just kind of mess around with. Combos, not too challenging. And even you can play through story arcade mode and just kind of have a fun time.
It's kind of I feel like it's kind of a middle ground fighting games where like Soul Calibur and some other games are a whole lot more combo heavy. Same with Killer Instinct. And Killer Instinct's kind of like a doled down version of Street Fighter, a little. You know, for kind of that aesthetic. 2D, I think it would do good. Just because it's got its own kind of niche.
Yeah. I can see people paying money for it. Me, no, I wouldn't get my money. I mean,
fair, dude.
But again, I'm not a big, fighting person, so that probably plays into it. Earthbound. I've not played, so I won't have really an opinion on this. I've seen some.
Oh, neither of you guys have?
Oh, okay.
No, for the longest time I didn't even know what the heck Ness was from.
Oh, okay.
So wow.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, if Earthbound holds up, so I played it when it got re-released in the Wii U. So I have played it more recently. It's really hard because I don't think the gameplay does, but everything else about that game is so unique. And so this is what I'm struggling with, right? Like, that there's not much else like it. Undertale's probably the closest comparison.
Undertale did
because
pretty well.
it's such a but Undertale it holds up because the gameplay is more unique. It's more, but again, the gameplay of Earthbound is the least exciting part. It's like very traditional turn-based, and there's not too many like wrinkles to the combat, and so I found the combat like pretty dull. It's really like the quirkiness of the world design and the character design and the enemy design that makes that game special, and which is why people like it. And what you're actually going to do, like, yes, the fighting is not exciting, but like what you're fighting and why you're fighting is the interesting part. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say yes, because I think those factors are enough to carry the somewhat dull gameplay. And it's still, if you release it today, there's not much else like it. So I think it has its own little niche, and so I would
that carries weight. I think
people
are gonna be curious just for that.
Yeah, it's really unlike like most other games, just how weird and quirky it is. You know what? It kind of reminds me. It's very surreal in the Kentucky Route Zero kind of sense. It's just like you're in a somewhat realistic world, but then there's like weird aliens coming in. Kentucky Route Zero might feel more like a dream versus like this more. No, actually, no, I'd take that back. They're both pretty weird and trippy and dreamy. So, yeah. Surreal is a good way to put that game.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah.
Next game. First Mario Party game. N64.
Yeah.
I say yeah.
I see that. I say that, yeah. I have the recent one that for the Switch, and you just can't play with friends online. Except for just the party games. So that's really the biggest drawback to that guy. So if you
Mario Party 1, yeah.
Yeah, if you could do
local co-op, it's perfect.
Yeah. Does Mario Party 1 have the spinning stick mini
does.
games?
I think so. I'm pretty sure that's the only one I've played, and it does have that. You don't have to do that though. And Nintendo even advises you don't have to do that, and they'll even send you something.
I remember that being. They gave you like a glove back in the day where it's like, don't hurt your hand. I mean, I think there are some frustrating mini games in some of those early Mario parties. So
Depends how competitive you get, man.
yeah, but I think the fundamental game of Mario Party,
Hmm.
you can enjoy any of them with friends.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it's more about the random chance and all that craziness happening. So I would say yes.
All the characters just coming together.
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
Having a party, dude.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I still have nostalgia for it, but I would say just for the game itself. Like right now, if I heard first Mario Party was going to be released on Switch, and I erase my memories of the game and I see it, I'm like, oh, I think that would be fun. Especially like it's a good party game. Like it's more expandable. Like people come over, hey, let's play this little game. It's got characters from Mario, and you just play these little mini games. Like I think it's good.
Just goofy. Because I think you're in a different mindset when you're playing Mario Party. You're not looking for like technical mastery of the game. Right? You're looking just like a goofy time with friends, and I think it's still good for that.
Now I do think the one game that I wish I could have from today, back in the past, would be probably Rocket League, from the party standpoint. Because I feel like that I would have loved having that game.
That's true. Yeah, that game is really well done.
What about Donkey Kong? And it could be either on the Atari if you had that, or arcade version. That was my only one I played on arcade, and I have it like right back there, the OG Donkey Kong.
I had it on Game Boy, where it was like it wasn't Mario, but it looked like
Donkey
Mario.
Kong 94. Oh, that's a different game, dude. That really holds up.
Yeah,
because that one you had like way more levels. That's famous for being like one of the best Game Boy games.
Yeah, it was. They had the first level that was like the original Donkey Kong, and then from
they
there
added like way more
different worlds, all that stuff.
Yeah. Crap, that's awesome.
This is you're moving right on a platform. Barrels are getting chucked at you. You got to climb up to the top, like that OG one. I say no, personally.
Yeah.
I'd look at this thing and be like, oh, maybe 30 years ago I'd play this, but
yeah, I really think this is. I give credence to the historical weight of the game. But I think it's a lot of nostalgia. I don't think the actual gameplay in today's day and age would not be fun. Like there are some games like maybe Tetris or Pac-Man that I do think stand the test of time from an arcade lens, but I don't think Donkey Kong does.
I could see it probably doing well, mostly from if they have the multiple worlds.
But that's the thing.
Different
Like
stages. Maybe.
Yeah.
the first one does. I think there are multiple stages. I don't remember how many, but
it's 4. It's like 4, and then it repeats. Joe,
okay.
I think the Game Boy game is fundamentally different than like the arcade original. So I think that's the one thing that I would say.
Okay, this is game number 10, Wii Sports.
Ooh.
It was a phenomenon, man. Like at the time.
Yeah, I think it would do good just because they always have kind of a sport game, and people will always pick it up.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think it's just the accessibility alone. Like those sports are, it's not like it's complicated to learn because people already know how to bowl and like people know what tennis is for the most part. And so I think people never looked at that game for the graphics, right? So the graphics are not an issue.
It's gonna be big on the family friendly list for sure.
Yeah, but if you release it tomorrow, I still think it would be relevant because that's just people enjoy that level of interactivity, and it's unlike holding a typical controller. So
I feel like parents would definitely, that would be a game that they would buy when they do give their kids like a new gaming system.
Yeah, here's sports. Yeah.
Well, that's the 10 games. I'm bringing in one extra bonus one.
Wait, Jake, did you say it holds up?
Yeah, I would say it would. Just whenever you bring in like a party type game like that, and it's something that's kind of expandable to anything that's like that, you bring in some people, you play Jackbox, Party Pack, or whatever you play, Mario Party, you play this. Like, I'm going to say it holds up. I would buy it if I knew people around me would be interested in playing it.
Yeah.
So, final bonus game, I'd say game number 11. I actually got the disc for it here.
Ooh.
Oregon Trail 2.
Oh, man, dude.
I don't know if you guys remember this from, like, computer class at school, or, like, if you guys ever played this, like, back in the day.
But here's the problem. My memories are so blurred. I don't know if I played 1, 2, or like, whatever. How many of them did they make?
Like 7.
Damn, I just know 2. I don't think I've ever played 1, but I vaguely remember it. I remember bits and pieces. I remember hunting.
Other ones like took you to Alaska and other places. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to say yes. And the reason I'm going to say yes is because I think the gameplay in that game is never. It's like, it's not really important. Or what's the good way to say it? Like, what you're actually doing is just kind of like making choices and being smart with resources. And I think that's something that like is present in Civilization games. It's something that's present in modern board games. Like, there's a lot of games today that still have that level of like resource management. And the fact that you were like kind of learning history at the same time, I would argue it gives it a little bit more extra weight and extra value, which I would be interested in. Like, hey, I'm gonna like learn something about, you know, our past and what it's like to live. So
it depends. Or would we say it is as big, heavily used in schools nowadays as it was when it first came out? Because that might be a big factor.
I mean, would you? Well, I guess the question is,
would
like,
you
would
pay
you
money
buy this
for
game?
it? I would say
personally.
No,
Personally, no, but I can also see this being like a huge meme that comes up and then gets super popular from that. You know what I mean?
Like Goose Game, kind of.
Yeah.
You got dysentery.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think yes. I think the fundamental way you play that game is just a series of resource management based decisions, and I think that is still, you know, is still enjoyable in today's day and age.
Me? No. I'm going to say no. Like, the crux of it for me is, like, if I saw a trailer for this and they're like, coming soon to Nintendo Switch, and then I see the gameplay of it and I look into it a little bit, I'd be like, hard pass. Like, there's no way I'm going to play this. Like, I'm not going to give you my... And then it depends on the price point, too, of course. But here's $20. Please pay for... Okay, no. There's no way you're getting my money.
It's honest. It's kind of like a turn-based strategy game, except, you know, every turn is like, you know, new day. It's like, what do you do with your day? So I don't know. Yeah. But that's interesting take. Yeah.
That's it, guys. That's pretty much it. That does it for episode 15 of our podcast. So thanks for joining us. If anybody's new here, consider subscribing to continue listening to all our content. Something I haven't really been plugging much, but I know we're on, like, say, Spotify, Alexa. We're on just a ton of like iTunes, a ton of different platforms. If you guys want to see like an edited video, if you want to see it just looking a little bit more nice, you know, we're up on YouTube. Actually got a URL for it, warcrygames.com, and give you more of a comprehensive and edited video. And take care. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Yeah.